Hi everybody, I'm Daniel Patron with S3 Realty. Today we brought in a property manager to kind of shed some light, answer some questions on the property management world. So why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody, tell them who you are, where you work, what you do.
So I am Alex Yoder with Dorman Real Estate Management. I've been managing properties for around 12 years.
Okay.
Our company manages around 400 doors, which consist of single-family, townhome condos, duplexes and fourplexes in the Pikes Peak region.
Cool. So on the Pikes Peak region, tell us, how is the rental market trending?
So rental market has been strong, and rental rates, as you probably heard on the news, have been good recently. But looking at a 10-year average, we've seen around a 3.5% increase year to year.
Okay.
So properties that were renting for $1,000 a month 10 years ago are now around $1,350.
Awesome. So that's strong. So kind of on that strength of the rental market, what's the vacancy period? How long can owners expect their unit to be empty in between tenants?
Yeah, so when we looked at the past 12 months, we saw a difference of between 18 and around 28 days.
Okay.
So homes in the spring, summer were closer to that 18-day mark,
okay,
whereas homes in the winter were closer to around the 30-day mark.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even though there are fewer people shopping, there's a smaller inventory in the winter, so it kind of balances out.
Awesome.
And in the summer, obviously, things really pick up.
Yeah, so it's always hot in the summer.
Yeah.
So kind of in tandem with the vacancy period, how long does the average tenant stay in a unit?
So your average occupancy is around 2 years. Obviously, you could push and require a longer-term lease, but most management companies don't do that because obviously we don't want the home to sit vacant for too long. So usually it's around a 2-year lease with at least one extension.
And you find that most tenants like signing 1-year leases or like signing 2-year leases?
So tenants usually don't like to sign more than a 1-year contract.
Okay.
They're worried about where they may be in a year,
Makes
or
sense.
whether they're going to like you in a year. So they want to have a little bit of control over that. But usually they'll stay for a year and then at least renew one time, and your average is about 2.
Cool. So for the owner who's using a property manager or considering using a property manager, we know they're going to pay management fees. That's a given. But what kind of expenses can they expect beyond the management fees?
So your biggest other expense is maintenance.
Okay.
And you're looking at about a 5 to 15% gap. Usually homes that are newer and that are at a higher price point are going to be closer to 5% of rents collected spent on maintenance. Yep. Whereas homes that are older and that are at a lower price point are going to be closer to 15.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense. So people can plan on 10 and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting point.
Awesome. And then, so if people are out there shopping for a property manager, they're interviewing potential companies in town, what do you think the number one question is that they should be asking their potential future property manager?
Yeah. So there's a lot of really good questions to ask, and you can certainly call me if you want the whole list.
Sure.
But the number one question, in my opinion, is asking them how they screen their tenants.
Okay.
Because that's what it really comes down to, whether we're putting in good tenants or not. So you want to ask what are their minimum criteria, and if they're sticking to a minimum criteria. You really don't want them to be going off of their gut or looking at it holistically. There needs to be a minimum criteria that's clearly disclosed to the tenant and to you. Just to give you an idea on credit score specifically, obviously we're looking at income and references as well, and criminal background checks and those kinds of things. But just on credit alone, a 5 to 600 credit score has about an 18% chance of default, whereas a 6 to 7% or 6 to 700 credit score has around a 6% chance of default.
Wow, big difference.
And that's pulled off of Experian stats from last year.
Cool. So what you're saying is that between that 5 and 6, there's a 3 times greater likelihood of them defaulting versus that 6 to 700 credit range credit score.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you want to be asking them what are their minimums and if they're sticking to those consistently.
Cool. Well, it's good information to know. Alex, thanks for coming in today. Thanks for answering the question and shedding a little light on the rental market here in the Pikes Peak region.
Thank you, David.
Take care.
You're awesome.
Totally leaving that in. Totally leaving that in.